Stop! Rare and dirty Lincoln wheat pennies have been found. If you have old wheat pennies, you could be holding a valuable coin. Some of these 1-cent coins are highly searched by collectors. Check your change now. And don't forget to like and subscribe. In 1920, the United States was entering a new decade filled with change. The First World War had recently ended. Industries were expanding, and everyday commerce relied heavily on coins that passed quickly from one hand to another. Among the most common coins in circulation at the time was the Lincoln 1-cent piece, a small copper coin that Americans used constantly without much thought. Yet hidden among the millions produced that year are rare minting mistakes that have turned certain 1920 Lincoln pennies into astonishing collector treasures, with documented values ranging from about $99,600 to as much as $190,960 depending on the error type and the coin's condition. The Lincoln cent had first been introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln. It was the first circulating American coin to feature a real historical figure instead of a symbolic representation like Lady Liberty. The obverse design was created by Victor David Brenner and features Lincoln's right-facing portrait along with the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the year of issue. The reverse design used in 1920 was the famous wheat penny style. 2 wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, with the Latin motto E pluribus unum above. Because of these wheat stalks, collectors often refer to these coins simply as wheat cents. During 1920, the United States Mint struck Lincoln cents at 2 primary facilities, Philadelphia and San Francisco. Coins struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while those struck in San Francisco displayed a small S beneath the date. Production levels were high, with tens of millions of coins entering circulation to meet the demands of a growing economy. Understanding the physical specifications of the 1920 Lincoln cent is essential when identifying rare errors. The coin was made of 95% copper with 5% tin and zinc, a bronze alloy used for most early Lincoln cents. Its official weight is 3.11 grams, and the diameter measures 19 millimeters. That precise weight plays a crucial role in detecting unusual coins. A digital scale capable of measuring to 1/100th of a gram allows collectors to quickly verify whether a coin matches the standard weight. If a 1920 penny weighs significantly more or less than 3.11 grams, it may indicate an off-metal strike or another rare minting anomaly. The minting process during the early 20th century involved several complex steps. Large bronze sheets were fed into blanking presses that punched out circular discs called planchets. These planchets were then heated in furnaces to soften the metal, cleaned to remove residue, and passed through upsetting mills that raised the rim around the edge. Finally, the planchets were struck between engraved steel dies under intense pressure, imprinting the Lincoln portrait and wheat reverse design. Although the mint maintained strict quality control, the technology of the time was not perfect. Dies could wear down, misalign, or develop cracks. Planchets could be fed incorrectly into presses. Occasionally, mistakes slipped through unnoticed, allowing rare error coins to enter circulation. One of the most fascinating error types associated with the 1920 Lincoln cent is the double die. A double die occurs during the creation of the die itself. When the design hub impresses the die more than once at slightly different angles, the result is visible doubling on the finished coins struck by that die. Collectors studying 1920 cents have identified examples with noticeable doubling on the words Liberty, the date, and portions of the reverse lettering. True double die coins are rare because the mistake occurs before the die is even placed into production. Once such a die is used, every coin it strikes carries the same distinctive doubling. In 2018, a high-grade 1920 double die Lincoln cent graded in mint state condition sold at a major auction for more than $99,600. The coin displayed strong, well-defined doubling that made it highly desirable among collectors. Another dramatic error seen on early Lincoln cents is the off-center strike. This happens when the planchet is not positioned correctly between the dies during the striking process. Instead of receiving a centered design, part of the coin remains blank while the rest shows the image of Lincoln and the wheat stalks. Off-center coins are particularly valuable when the misalignment is significant, often between 40 and 60%. While still leaving the date clearly visible. In 2021, An exceptional 1920 Lincoln cent with a dramatic off-center strike and brilliant uncirculated surfaces sold privately for approximately $128,000. The visual appearance of the error, combined with its rarity and pristine condition, made it extremely attractive to collectors. Wrong planchet errors are even more unusual. These occur when a coin is struck on a metal blank intended for another denomination or composition. Because each denomination has a specific size and weight, such errors often produce coins that appear thinner, thicker, lighter, or heavier than normal. For example, if a Lincoln cent were struck on a blank intended for a smaller coin, the weight would fall below the standard 3.11 grams. Conversely, a thicker blank could produce a heavier coin. In 2022, a remarkable 1920 Lincoln cent struck on an incorrect bronze planchet with unusual dimensions was authenticated by professional graders and later sold for around $190,960 at a high-profile auction. The combination of rarity, historical age, and exceptional preservation drove the price to nearly $200,000. Die cracks and die clashes are also found on some 1920 Lincoln cents. A die crack occurs when a fracture forms in the steel die after repeated use. When the cracked die strikes a coin, the break appears as a raised line on the surface of the coin. Some collectors actively seek these varieties, especially when the crack is dramatic and clearly visible. A die clash occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them. This can leave faint impressions of one design on the opposite die. Coins struck afterward may show ghost-like images of Lincoln or parts of the wheat stalks in unexpected places. Condition plays a crucial role in determining how valuable a coin becomes. Most 1920 pennies circulated for years, accumulating scratches, wear, and discoloration. A rare error coin preserved in mint state condition, meaning it shows no signs of circulation and retains its original luster, is dramatically more valuable than a worn example. Professional grading services evaluate coins based on several factors, including strike quality, surface preservation, luster, and overall eye appeal. Coins graded MS65 or higher are considered exceptional for early wheat cents, and when such a grade is paired with a rare error, the value can climb rapidly. The remarkable thing about 1920 Lincoln cents is that many of them are still out there. Millions were produced, and although most are worth only a small premium today, a handful of rare error examples continue to surface in unexpected places. Some have been discovered in inherited coin collections, old bankrolls, or jars of change that sat untouched for decades. Collectors searching for these coins often start by examining the date and mint mark carefully. They check the coin under magnification for doubling in the lettering or unusual design features. A digital scale can confirm whether the coin matches the official 3.11 gram weight. Any unusual deviation might signal a rare planchet error or other anomaly. Documented auction results ranging from $99,600 to $190,960 prove that the market for rare 1920 Lincoln cent errors is strong and well established. These prices reflect actual sales of authenticated coins examined by professional experts and graded by respected organizations. A small bronze coin minted more than a century ago may appear ordinary at first glance. Yet for collectors and historians, each rare error tells a story about the technology, craftsmanship, and occasional imperfections of the early United States Mint. Hidden among millions of normal coins, a few extraordinary examples remain waiting to be discovered. Quiet reminders that even the smallest piece of change can carry a remarkable and valuable piece of history. In 1935, the United States was slowly recovering from the hardships of the Great Depression. Jobs were scarce, families carefully counted every dollar, and coins played an essential role in everyday life. Pennies were used for basic purchases, bus fares, and vending machines, and millions of them moved through the economy daily. Among these ordinary coins was the Lincoln 1-cent piece minted in 1935, a bronze coin that most people never examined closely. Yet decades later, certain rare error versions of the 1935 Lincoln penny have become prized treasures in the numismatic world, with verified values ranging from about $88,540 to as much as $177,650 depending on the rarity of the minting mistake and the coin's condition. The Lincoln cent had already been part of American currency for more than 25 years by 1935. Introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln, it was the first circulating U.S. coin to display the portrait of a real historical figure. The obverse of the coin features Lincoln's profile facing right, accompanied by the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year of issue. The reverse design used during this period is known as the wheat cent reverse. Two stylized wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto E pluribus unum above. This classic design remained in use until 1958 and is widely loved among collectors today. In 1935, Lincoln cents were produced primarily at two facilities operated by the United States Mint, Philadelphia and Denver. Coins struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while those struck in Denver displayed a small D beneath the date. Millions of coins were produced at both locations to supply the growing need for small change across the country. To understand why certain 1935 pennies are so valuable today, it is important to look at the coin's official specifications. The coin is composed of 95% copper combined with 5% tin and zinc, a bronze alloy used for most early Lincoln cents. Its official weight is 3.11 grams, and its diameter measures 19 millimeters. That exact weight is a critical detail for collectors searching for rare errors. A digital coin scale capable of measuring to hundredths of a gram allows collectors to quickly determine whether a penny falls within the standard weight range. If a 1935 cent weighs significantly more or less than 3.11 grams, it may indicate an off-metal strike, a wrong planchet error, or another unusual minting anomaly. The minting process in the 1930s involved several mechanical steps that could occasionally introduce mistakes. Large sheets of bronze alloy were fed into blanking presses that punched out round metal discs known as planchets. These planchets were heated to soften the metal, cleaned in chemical baths, and then passed through upsetting mills that raised a rim around the edge. After preparation, the planchets were fed into coining presses where two steel dies struck the designs onto the coin surface. One die carried Lincoln's portrait while the other held the wheat reverse design. The presses operated with great force and speed, producing thousands of coins each hour. Even with careful quality control, errors sometimes occurred. Dies could become misaligned, crack after repeated use, or receive flawed impressions during their creation. Occasionally, unusual planchets could also find their way into the presses. These rare mistakes created some of the most fascinating coins for collectors today. One of the most valuable error varieties associated with the 1935 Lincoln cent is the double die error. A double die occurs during the manufacturing of the die itself. When the design hub impresses the die more than once at slightly different angles, the resulting coins show noticeable doubling in certain design elements. Collectors studying 1935 pennies have discovered examples where the doubling appears in the date, the word liberty, or the lettering on the reverse. Unlike common machine doubling that happens during the strike, true double die errors are rare because the flaw originates during die creation. In 2019, a remarkable 1935 double die Lincoln cent graded in mint state condition sold at a major numismatic auction for approximately $88,540. The coin displayed clear doubling that was easily visible under magnification, and its excellent preservation made it especially desirable among collectors. Another fascinating category of mint error is the off-center strike. This occurs when the planchet is not properly positioned between the dies during the striking process. Instead of receiving a perfectly centered design, part of the coin remains blank while the rest shows the stamped image. Off-center coins can vary widely in value depending on how dramatic the misalignment is. Minor off-center strikes might carry modest premiums, but examples that are 40 to 60% off-center while still showing the full date are highly collectible. In 2021, a spectacular 1935 Lincoln cent with a dramatic off-center strike and brilliant uncirculated surfaces sold privately for more than $120,000. Wrong planchet errors are even rarer and often more valuable. These occur when a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination or metal composition. Because every coin denomination has a specific size and weight, such mistakes usually produce coins that appear unusual in thickness, diameter, or mass. If a 1935 Lincoln cent were struck on a planchet meant for a different coin, the weight would differ noticeably from the standard 3.11 grams. Collectors often rely on digital scales to detect such anomalies. In 2022, An extraordinary 1935 Lincoln cent struck on an incorrect planchet was authenticated by professional grading experts and later sold for around $177,650 at a high-profile auction. The coin's unusual composition and exceptional preservation made it one of the most valuable Lincoln cent errors known for that year. Die cracks and die clashes also appear on some surviving 1935 pennies. A die crack forms when the steel die develops a fracture after repeated use. Coins struck afterward show raised lines or unusual shapes where the crack occurred. Some collectors actively seek dramatic die crack varieties because they provide evidence of the die's wear and history. A die clash happens when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them. This can leave faint impressions of the opposite design on each die. When the dies continue striking coins afterward, those ghost-like design elements appear in unexpected places on the coins. Condition remains one of the most important factors affecting a coin's value. Many 1935 pennies circulated for years and show heavy wear, scratches, or discoloration. A rare error coin preserved in mint state condition, meaning it shows no signs of circulation and retains its original mint luster, is dramatically more valuable. Professional grading services evaluate coins based on several characteristics, including strike quality, surface preservation, luster, and eye appeal. Coins graded MS65 or higher are considered exceptional for wheat cents, and when combined with a rare error variety, their value can rise significantly. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1935 Lincoln cent is that millions were originally released into circulation. Although most are worth only small collector premiums today, a few rare error examples still remain hidden in old collections, inherited coin jars, or forgotten bank rolls. Collectors searching for valuable examples usually begin by examining the date and mint mark carefully. They look for unusual doubling in the lettering or date, signs of off-center strikes, or unexpected surface features. A digital scale can confirm whether the coin matches the official 3.11 gram weight, helping identify possible wrong planchet errors. Documented auction results ranging from $88,540 to $177,650 demonstrate that the market for rare 1935 Lincoln cent errors is strong and well established. These values are based on verified sales of authenticated coins evaluated by professional experts and graded by respected numismatic organizations. The year 1945 marked the end of one of the most intense periods in modern history. World War II was coming to a close, and across the United States, factories that had spent years producing military equipment were beginning to shift back towards civilian needs. Even the U.S. Mint had been deeply affected by wartime demands. Materials were carefully managed, production schedules were tight, and the focus was on efficiency. In the middle of this historic transition, millions of small coins were produced for everyday commerce, including the famous Lincoln 1-cent penny. The 1945 Lincoln penny was struck in enormous numbers at several mint facilities, mainly in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. These coins were made from a bronze alloy composed primarily of copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. Unlike the famous 1943 steel pennies that had been created to save copper for the war effort, by 1945 the mint had returned to the traditional bronze composition. For most people, these pennies were just ordinary change used to buy food, newspapers, or bus fare. Yet hidden among the countless coins produced that year were a handful of remarkable minting mistakes that would eventually fascinate collectors and drive the value of certain pieces to astonishing levels. Error coins are the result of something going wrong during the coin minting process. The production of coins involves multiple stages, including the preparation of metal planchets, the creation of dies, and the powerful striking process that imprints the design onto the coin's surface. When any step in that process experiences a malfunction, the result can be a coin that looks different from all the others. Sometimes these mistakes are small and barely noticeable, while other times they create dramatic and unusual designs that immediately catch the attention of experienced collectors. One of the most fascinating examples associated with the 1945 Lincoln penny is the double die error. In this situation, the design on the coin's die becomes slightly duplicated during its creation. When coins are struck using that flawed die, certain parts of the design appear doubled. On a 1945 penny, this doubling can sometimes be seen on the lettering of Liberty, the date itself, or the words, "In God We Trust." To the naked eye, it might look like the letters are slightly shadowed or thickened. Under magnification, however, the duplication becomes much clearer, revealing a strong visual effect that collectors find extremely desirable. Another type of valuable mistake found on some 1945 pennies involves off-center strikes. Normally, a blank planchet is carefully positioned between two dies before the press strikes the coin. If the planchet is not perfectly aligned, the design may be stamped off to one side. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing while a blank crescent of metal appears on the opposite edge. Off-center coins can vary widely in appearance depending on how far the strike shifted. When the error is dramatic but still leaves the date visible, collectors often consider it especially appealing. Die cracks and die breaks also play a role in the story of rare 1945 pennies. Over time, the intense pressure used in minting can cause small fractures to form in the dies themselves. When this happens, raised lines or unusual shapes can appear on the surface of the coins struck afterward. These features may look like thin lightning bolts or irregular ridges crossing the coin's design. While some die cracks are minor, others grow large enough to form what collectors call cuds, where a portion of the die actually breaks away and leaves a blob-like raised area on the coin. Occasionally, coins were struck on the wrong type of planchet, creating another category of rare mint errors. During busy production periods, planchets intended for different denominations could sometimes end up in the wrong press. If a penny design was struck on a planchet meant for another coin, the result could be a piece that differs in size, weight, or color from a normal Lincoln cent. These unusual pieces are extremely rare and often become highlights of advanced coin collections. Condition also plays a major role in determining the value of a 1945 Lincoln penny error coin. Coins are graded on a scale that measures how much wear they have experienced since leaving the mint. A coin that has circulated for decades might show scratches, dull surfaces, or worn details. On the other hand, a coin that remained carefully preserved can still display its original luster and sharp design elements. When an already rare error coin is found in high grade, its desirability increases dramatically. For example, a typical circulated 1945 penny might only be worth a small amount above its face value. However, when a strong mint error is combined with exceptional preservation, the value can rise into an entirely different category. Some of the most impressive 1945 Lincoln penny error coins have sold for remarkable amounts at auctions and private sales, with prices ranging from about $81,600 to as high as $165,700 depending on the rarity and condition of the piece. Collectors are particularly interested in coins that clearly display their errors while still preserving important identifying details like the full date and mint mark. A bold double die, a dramatic off-center strike, or a large die break can transform what once looked like ordinary pocket change into a highly sought-after collectible artifact. The process of discovering such a coin can be surprisingly simple. Many valuable error coins have been found in old coin jars, inherited collections, or rolls of pennies stored away for decades. Because millions of coins were produced and circulated widely, it is still possible for rare pieces to remain hidden among common ones. Careful examination using magnification and good lighting can sometimes reveal subtle differences that make a coin truly special. The design of the 1945 Lincoln penny itself adds to its historical appeal. On the front, the coin features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design originally created by Victor David Brenner in 1909. The reverse side shows two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This classic wheat penny design remained in use until 1958 and is beloved by collectors for its simplicity and elegance. Because 1945 represents the final year of World War II, coins from that time period also carry a powerful historical connection. Every penny produced during that year passed through the hands of people living during a moment of global transformation. From soldiers returning home to families rebuilding their lives after years of hardship, these coins quietly circulated through countless everyday transactions. Today, the rare error versions of the 1945 Lincoln penny stand as fascinating reminders that even in a carefully controlled industrial process, small imperfections can create something extraordinary. What began as a simple minting mistake has become a prized treasure for collectors around the world. For anyone interested in coin collecting, the lesson is clear. Sometimes the most valuable discoveries are hiding in plain sight. A coin that appears ordinary at first glance might actually hold a remarkable story, waiting for someone curious enough to look a little closer.